The message came during my lunch break at the coffee shop. I stared at my phone screen, reading my father's words over and over, trying to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. Marina, we need to talk about college. We won't be able to help with tuition this year. It's just too expensive right now. Maybe take a gap year? My hands trembled. A gap year? Now? When I was just 1 month away from starting my senior year? I called my dad immediately. Marina, his voice sounded tired. I know this is unexpected, but we just don't have that kind of money right now. I took a deep breath. I understood financial struggles, really. For the past 3 years, I'd been working part-time, paying for my own textbooks and dorm expenses, pinching pennies everywhere I could. But this final year, my parents had promised to help with tuition so I could focus on my thesis. Dad, maybe I can pick up another job or apply for more scholarships? I suggested, desperately trying to find a solution. He sighed. It's not just about a few $1,000s, honey. The whole year's tuition is just beyond what we can manage. I'm sorry. After we hung up, I sat at the cafe counter, numb. 3 years of hard work, maintaining my GPA while working 20 hours a week, all potentially wasted because I couldn't afford the final stretch. I called my mom next, hoping she might have a different perspective. Mom, did you know about Dad's decision? I asked when she answered. Yes, sweetheart, we discussed it. It's just not financially possible right now. Maybe next year will be better. Something in her tone didn't sit right with me. It was too rehearsed, too calm for news that would completely derail my life plans. But I pushed the feeling aside. My parents wouldn't lie about something this important. I spent the next week frantically researching emergency scholarships, calling the financial aid office, and picking up extra shifts at the cafe. My supervisor noticed the dark circles under my eyes. Everything okay, Marina? She asked as I fumbled with the espresso machine for the 3rd time that morning. Just some family stuff, I mumbled. Nothing I can't handle. That night, exhausted from a double shift, I collapsed onto my bed and mindlessly scrolled through Instagram. And then I saw it. My father, grinning widely, standing in front of a brand new boat. The caption read, "Finally pulled the trigger on my dream boat. Can't wait to take her out on the water this weekend." I blinked, sure I was hallucinating from exhaustion. The timestamp showed it was posted 3 days ago, the day after he told me they couldn't afford my tuition. With shaking fingers, I swiped to the next photo. My parents, champagne glasses raised, toasting on the deck of what appeared to be a $50,000 boat. My mother's comment below, "So excited for our weekend getaways." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Too expensive? The tuition for my entire senior year was less than what that boat must have cost. I kept scrolling, anger building with each swipe. Photos of them shopping for boating accessories. My father showing off custom fishing gear. My mother modeling a new designer swimsuit specifically bought for their boat days. I closed Instagram and sat in the dark of my apartment, a strange calm settling over me. It wasn't about money at all. They had simply chosen a boat over my education. Over my future. The next morning, I didn't call them. I didn't text. Instead, I made an appointment with my academic advisor, the financial aid office, and the student loan department. If my parents wouldn't help me finish college, I would find another way. Days passed. My phone buzzed with texts from my mother. "Haven't heard from you in a while, everything okay? Dad and I are thinking about visiting next weekend. Did you get Dad's message about tuition? I know it's disappointing." I didn't respond to any of them. I wasn't ready. Instead, I threw myself into solving my problem. I found a scholarship for senior students in financial distress. It wasn't enough to cover everything, but it was a start. I picked up a second job working nights at a 24-hour diner. I applied for an emergency student loan. A week later, my roommate knocked on my bedroom door. Marina? Your parents are here." I hadn't warned them I was coming. I didn't respond to their messages about visiting. But there they were, standing awkwardly in our tiny living room, my father's tan fresh from his days on the water. "Surprise!" my mother said, opening her arms for a hug I didn't step into. "We thought we'd check on you since you've been so quiet." I crossed my arms. "How's the boat?" The silence that fell was deafening. My father's face went blank, then shifted to defensive. "Marina, I saw the Instagram posts, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Congratulations on your dream boat. Looks expensive. My mother at least had the decency to look embarrassed. That's different, honey. The boat is an investment. An investment, I repeated. And my education isn't? My father crossed his arms, mirroring my stance. Marina, you don't understand adult finances. The boat was purchased with specific savings that… Stop, I cut him off. Just stop. For once, tell me the truth. You chose the boat over my tuition. Another heavy silence. Then, finally, my father sighed. We've been planning for that boat for years, Marina. Your mother and I work hard, and we deserve to enjoy some of the fruits of our labor. And I don't deserve to finish my degree? My voice cracked slightly. Of course you do, my mother jumped in. But you're young. Taking a year off won't hurt. You can save up, maybe get more work experience. While you enjoy weekend getaways on your new boat, I laughed, a hollow sound. Got it. Marina, you're being dramatic, my father said, his tone hardening. This attitude isn't helping anything. You know what? You're right. I took a deep breath. My attitude isn't helping, but neither is pretending that this is about financial hardship when it's really about priorities. And clearly, I'm not one of yours. My mother's eyes welled with tears. That's not fair. We've supported you for years. And now you're done? 1 year short of graduation? Perfect timing. My father's face reddened. We don't have to justify our financial decisions to you. We're still your parents. Yes, you are. And I expected more from you. I moved toward the door, opening it. I think you should leave. I have a shift in an hour, and I need to get ready. Marina, my mother started. Please go. I'll figure out my education on my own. After they left, I sat on the couch, trembling. I'd never confronted them like that before. I'd always been the agreeable one, the one who understood, the one who didn't make waves. But this betrayal cut too deep. That night at the diner, I mechanically took orders and delivered plates, my mind elsewhere. My phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from my parents, the tone evolving from defensive to guilty. Dad, Marina, let's talk about this like adults. Mom, sweetheart, please call us. We love you. Dad, I understand you're upset, but cutting us off isn't the answer. I didn't respond. For the first time, I was the one setting the terms. And for the first time, they were the ones who had to wait. 2 weeks passed. I secured the emergency scholarship, took the student loan, and juggled my 2 jobs while maintaining my coursework. It was brutal, exhausting, but also strangely empowering. I had a plan that didn't rely on them. Then came another Instagram notification. My father had tagged me in a post. Curious, I opened it. It was a photo of my parents standing in front of their boat, holding a for sale sign. The caption read, "Some things are more important than weekend getaways. Family comes first." My finger hovered over the like button, emotions warring inside me. Part of me wanted to call them immediately, to tell them not to sell the boat, that I was figuring it out on my own. But another part, the part that had been deeply hurt by their choice, hesitated. I closed Instagram without responding and went to bed. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my father. "Marina," he said when I answered, his voice unusually subdued. "We're selling the boat." "You don't have to do that," I replied, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. "Yes, we do," he insisted. "We made a mistake, a big one. We prioritized the wrong thing." I didn't respond immediately, letting the silence stretch between us. "Marina," my mother's voice came on the line. They must have been on speakerphone. "We're so sorry. We didn't realize how it would look, what message it would send." "It's not about how it looks," I said. "It's about what it means. You told me you couldn't afford my tuition, then spent more than that amount on a boat. What was I supposed to think?" My father cleared his throat. "You were supposed to think exactly what you did, that we made a selfish choice. And you were right." I blinked, surprised by his candor. "The boat is already listed," my mother added. "The money will go toward your tuition and living expenses, so you don't have to work 2 jobs while finishing your degree." I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. I've already taken out loans and gotten a scholarship. "Then we'll pay off the loans," my father said firmly. "Marina, we messed up. We got caught up in what we wanted and didn't think about what you needed. That's not who we want to be as parents. I sat down on my bed, emotions swirling. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, my mother said gently. We just want a chance to make this right. That weekend, they visited again. This time, there was no defensiveness, no justification. Instead, they listened as I explained how their decision had made me feel, how it had shaken my trust in them. They didn't interrupt, didn't make excuses. We've always been proud of you, Marina, my father said when I finished. You work harder than anyone I know. You never complain, never ask for more than you need, and somehow we took that for granted. We assumed you'd be fine, my mother added, because you've always been fine, always figured things out, but that doesn't mean you should have to. The boat sold within a month. True to their word, my parents used the money to pay off my emergency loans and cover my tuition for the year. But more importantly, something had shifted in our relationship. For the first time, they saw me not just as their daughter, but as a person with valid feelings and needs. 6 months later, as I was preparing my thesis, my father called with news that he'd been offered a promotion at work. That's great, Dad, I said, genuinely happy for him. You deserve it. Thanks, Marina. He paused. I was thinking about putting some of the extra income into a savings account. For your graduate school, if you decide to go. I smiled, touched by the gesture. You don't have to do that. I know, but I want to. Another pause. I'm proud of you, kiddo, more than I've probably ever said. The day of my graduation, as I stood in line waiting to receive my diploma, I spotted my parents in the crowd. They weren't watching the ceremony through their phones, trying to get the perfect Instagram shot. Instead, they were simply present, their eyes on me, their faces beaming with pride. After the ceremony, as we hugged, my father whispered, "You did this, Marina. Despite everything, you made it happen." We had some help toward the end, I reminded him with a small smile. He shook his head. The determination was all yours. You taught us something important, you know, about standing up for yourself, about priorities. That night, as we celebrated at dinner, my mother raised her glass. To Marina, who reminds us what really matters. I raised my glass too, meeting their eyes. The road hadn't been smooth, and the hurt hadn't disappeared overnight. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like they truly saw me. Not as an afterthought, not as the self-sufficient daughter who wouldn't complain, but as someone worthy of their support and sacrifice. Sometimes the hardest part isn't standing up for yourself, it's staying standing when the people you love try to knock you down. But sometimes standing your ground is exactly what makes them finally see you.